In the late hours of the 11th of April 1812, over 100 Luddites met here at Dunsteeples in Mirfield. Their mission was to march on to Rawfolds Mill near Cleckheaton with the intention of destroying the mill. Prior to the 11th of April, Luddites would meet here at the Shears Inn in Liversedge. This is where they gathered to get their plan together, to get themselves organised and to take the Luddite oath. Marching onto the mill, the Luddites' mission unfortunately failed. William Cartwright, the owner of Rawfolds Mill, had actually been prepared for weeks in advance for the Luddites to come and arrive. The Luddites were met with armed forces ready for attack. For the people that were actually there, they said that the Luddites were also prepared with weapons. They smashed some of the windows, but unfortunately couldn't get into the mill. Instead, it ended up with the Luddites running in multiple different directions to try and get away from the armed forces. 2 of them were actually killed on sight, and eventually 17 of them were arrested and taken to York prison. Although the Luddite revolt was actually very short-lived, this didn't mean it didn't leave an impact on the people who lived in the surrounding areas. Even Charlotte Bronte herself wrote in her book Shirley some 37 years later, "Misery generates hate. These sufferers hate the machines which they believe took their bread from them. They hated the buildings which contained the machines. They hated the manufacturers who owned the buildings." And that's 37 years later in her story of Shirley. Depending on what you feel about the Luddites, some think they're vandals, some think they were heroes, but it really does depend on how you perceive the Luddites. To me personally, I just see men who were struggling, men whose livelihoods were being threatened. They themselves thought it was just the machines that were coming in, taking their jobs, and that was part of it. A machine could do the job a lot faster than a couple of men could. But another thing that was threatening them, and we've got to remember this, is Britain at the time was at war with France, with Napoleon, and this was causing restraint on foreign trade. The Luddites themselves, they didn't realise that the war was having this much of an impact. To them, all they saw was factory owners coming in, taking their jobs and getting richer by doing so. So depending on whereabouts you're from in Britain, you may see the Luddites as heroes or villains, or maybe just men who were just struggling and trying to protect their families and livelihood. What are your thoughts?